understands that the fruit of the earth is achieved, is gained by the help of God, the master of the universe. And that when you get your produce, you have to show your thankfulness to God. This is a great insight of Cain. He was a true son of his mother. So Cain brings the first offering, and Abel improves on what he sees that Cain has done. And it says that there are two statements here. He brought the firstlings of his, how does it say?
The choices of his birthday.
Yes, the choice of the firstlings, which means the best and the first. So the Torah says there is a distinction between the two sacrifices. Cain has to be praised for being the first one. Abel has to be praised for joining him and improving on him. But the reaction of God is very harsh. God accepts the sacrifice of Abel and disregards the sacrifice of Cain. And we as curious readers ask ourselves, how do the heroes of the story know what is done in heaven, what happens in heaven? How do they know? Usually there are some 5 such stories in the Old Bible. When God accepts a sacrifice, a fire descends from heaven and consumes the sacrifice. So if there would have been such a statement in our story, it would be very clear that one sacrifice of the, would say, the animal sacrifice was accepted, and the fruit sacrifice was not accepted. But there is no such statement here. There are other commentators who say, no, it doesn't mean that something dramatic happened. What actually means, it says God regarded Abel and his sacrifice. So he regarded also him, not only his sacrifice. So there are people who explain this as meaning, eventually they realized that Abel was blessed and Cain was not blessed. So not on the very same day they knew the reaction of God. I believe that most of you were educated Jewishly by Gustave Doré, the great French painter whose illustrations to the Bible accompany us from childhood. He had a tremendous imagination. So there is a picture of him, an illustration of his, called Cain, or the sacrifice of Cain and Abel. And what he shows us there, and you saw it as children, is that from the altar of Cain, of Abel, the smoke goes directly to the heavens. But from the altar of Cain, the smoke does not erase. And although it's not stated in the Bible, I have a feeling that this person had a good instinct for biblical narrative. And maybe he's true. So this would be very nice if the Torah would devote some 5-6 words to tell us how they knew. But they know it for sure. And it says that Cain took it very, very badly. Cain was very incensed, and his face, for in the whole Bible we don't have the idiom, naflu panav. But we instinctively understand it very well, that a person in depression doesn't go upright. He lowers his head, and he feels lowered, ashamed, depressed. Vayiplu panav. Like in English you say you fall in love, in Hebrew you would say your head falls down, or your face actually falls down, which shouldn't be taken too literally. And I want to tell you now a short story. When I was retired from Bar Ilan, I taught a couple of years in Tel Aviv in a secular college for Judaism, which is called Alma. Alma means the world in Aramaic. Alma is a very beautiful place, and I liked to teach there very much. And most of the students, if not all of them, were secular. And I don't know what was the topic of my course there. What I remember is that on my right side there was a student at the age of 30 or more who was very dedicated to my biblical studies, and he was really intrigued by whatever I said. One of the lessons he suddenly cries out, "When I get a son, I will call him Cain." I don't know why he said this, but you know, teachers have something like 10 to 20 seconds to understand the situation and to find the right reaction. Don't think that to be teacher is such an easy thing. It's almost like Magav, how do you say? A policeman who has to react to a terrorist act, he has to react very quickly. So I knew that he speaks to my yarmulke, that he's angry with the representative of the Jewish God in his class, right? Which is me. Why is he so angry? So I dared to confront him. And I said to him, "Listen to me very well, Abu Cain." If you don't laugh, you don't know Arabic. Abu Cain is like Abu Said. Abu means father. And in Arab is called after his firstborn. So I was very angry. To call his son after the first murderer, he must be very, very angry with the Torah. This is a rebellious statement, isn't it? So I said to him, "Listen to me very well, Abu Cain. I believe that you are angry with God, that He discriminated between the two brothers and caused the first murder. And you don't blame Cain, you blame him. Now all of you have to make an assessment whether you agree with Abu Cain or not. But I want to tell you that what the story really means is, whatever happens to you, the depths of the feeling of discrimination that you feel, the injustice which you feel, are never, never, never a justification for murder. This is what the story means. I hope you agree with me. So please, reconsider. You should be proud of this story. But how come that he was angry with God? Afterwards I found it in literature. There is a liberal modern belief. How would he say that all men are created equal? And if they are not equal in their talents, in their abilities, we have to compensate the weaker by overlooking the discrepancy between the talented and the untalented, between the strong and the weak, between the healthy and the sick. So if our children or grandchildren bring the drawings from the kindergarten, we praise the untalented picture where you can't tell whether it's a mountain or a girl. More than we praise the good picture. And we place them both on the frigidaire as equal, right? But God is not a kindergarten teacher. God is, the Lord is the God of reality as we know it. And in reality, there is no such equation between the abilities or the fortunes of people. And we have to learn to live in this injustice of the situation. And we cannot expect God to correct this situation and to make really people, all people, exactly the same, which would be horrible, right? So this is the meaning of this story. How should Cain learn to face the fact that Abel found a better way for religious expression than he himself, which happens to us every day in the competition which is called life. So we can now continue. So God was silent, which in a way God didn't explain. If God would be nicer, he would say, Cain, please understand, I like your sacrifice very much, but next time try better. Try harder. Now God is silent. But this is life. God is almost always silent, isn't he? You cannot expect the Bible or the Torah to be different than life. Then it would be an untruthful book. But now that Cain is in a deep depression, God speaks to him. In other words, it's not an indifferent God. It's a God who is enigmatic, because we have to explain his behavior. And we think about the Shoah, it's very difficult to explain his behavior. So he's silent most of the time. But here he speaks up and tries to help Cain to overcome his depression. So we will read it now. I must say that I don't like the translation of Alter. I will read it first and I will try to destroy it, and then I will read you the translation of the New Jewish Publication Society translation, which is a very accepted one in English-speaking countries. And you understand that this is a poem. And poetry is always much more difficult in any language than prose. So it's enigmatic, it is very short. Anyway, I'll read now the translation of Alter, and I will show you that I read it first in Hebrew, but the Hebrew is really very, very difficult. So God says to Cain, Lama chara lecha velama naflu panecha? Why are you incensed, and why is your face fallen? Which is like a yeka, which means God doesn't ask a question of information. This is a rhetorical question, which means don't feel so badly about it. Put it into proportion, what has happened to you. Why do you take it so badly? Lama chara lecha velama naflu panecha? Why are you incensed, and why is your face fallen? For whether you offer well or whether you do not, at the 10th flap sins crouches, and for you it is longing. Which means, Alter tells us, I really don't care whether you offer well or you don't offer well, which is a banal statement. Which means, as if I would tell the children, there's no real difference whether you paint well or you paint in a clumsy way. No. I read you now the old good translation of JPS, and it says so. Why are you distressed, and why is your face fallen? Surely, if you do right, there is uplift. But if you do not do right, sin crouches at your door. You remember that the major